Millionaire mocked waitress at elite club discover the unexpected moment that changed everything. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her apron, the stark white fabric standing out against the dimly lit backdrop of the luxurious restaurant. The view from the skyscraper was breathtaking, but tonight, staring directly into the faces of the wealthy patrons, the view felt distant. Once again, she braced herself for the judgment lurking behind their designer suits and polished shoes. She was just a waitress, a cog in their elite machinery, one to be dismissed, belittled, and overlooked. Each shift weighed heavier, especially knowing her mother was clinging to fading health and her younger brother depended on every dollar she earned. What would happen to them if she faltered? The rain began to pour, a steady drumbeat that turned the city streets into a slick canvas. It was a typical Thursday night, but the vibe felt off as VIP guests began to roll in for a corporate event that promised heightened energy and desperation. As the clinking of glasses filled the air, Sarah's mind raced. The pressure to perform was palpable, yet beneath the surface, her worries about her family bubbled like a cauldron on the verge of spilling. Here, amidst luxury, she felt stripped bare. Would they ever see her as more than just a server? But the greatest source of her irritation loomed at a table by the window, Jake. The 30-year-old millionaire had a sharp tongue, and his jabs aimed at the staff sliced through her tense focus. His smirk, as if he was amused by her very existence, gnawed at her. Why was he so intent on reminding her of their vastly different worlds? Internal conflict twisted in her gut. Did she hate him for his privilege, or was she simply projecting her frustrations onto him? As she approached his table to refill water glasses, she steadied her breath, desperate to maintain her professionalism. Suddenly, chaos erupted. The lights flickered, then went out entirely. The hum of elite conversation turned to shouts of confusion as panic spread like wildfire. An anxious crowd surged, and Sarah felt the panic rise with them, her own heart racing. In the darkness, she heard Jake's sharp intake of breath, a sound laden with fear. She felt a surge of instinct. At that moment, his bravado slipped away, revealing a man crumbling under pressure. Before Sarah could hesitate, she moved towards him. "Breathe, just breathe," she whispered, conscious of the chaos surrounding them. It was strange, she was the one with nothing, yet she found herself in a moment of power, a tether to calmness in his storm. But why should she lend him comfort? Beneath her concern, resentment simmered. And yet, as the darkness enveloped them, she felt fragile threads of connection weave between their lives. He was lost, trapped in a gilded cage made by his own family's expectations, and perhaps it was time to confront the hypocrisy of wealth. Before they could uncover the raw truths hovering between them, a heartbeat of desperation knocked at her resolve. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake's eyes held more than just fear, they flickered with recognizing his privilege. Sarah's heart twisted. Sitting across from her in this moment was an ordinary man burdened by extraordinary expectations. The weight of his world and her own tangled together in the suffocating blackness. Days spent in survival mode, relentless dreams blurred by urgency, hung heavily between them like smoke. As rain pounded the windows, fusing their moment into the storm, she couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter filled with vulnerability and fragility could potentially change the trajectory of her life. But deeper shadows loomed, and as the lights flickered back on and the city reclaimed its pulse, Sarah was left grappling with uncertainty. Could Jake really mean what he hinted? Or was it just another hollow promise tossed her way, wrapping her in the illusion of possibility while keeping her tethered to the life she so desperately wanted to escape? Sarah blinked as the lights surged back to life, the sharp brightness nearly blinding after the enveloping darkness. She took a step back, the comforting solidity of her apron now feeling like shackles. Jake's expression shifted from confusion to embarrassment as patrons returned to their conversations, but the moment they shared lingered in her mind like a flickering candle. What had just happened? Was there something more between them, or was panic poisoning her perception? She had never considered herself the type to engage deeply with someone like him. Their worlds seemed irreversibly divided, yet here they were, two souls lost amidst wealth and expectation. She shook off the thought as she turned to serve another table, her heart racing not only from the adrenaline of the blackout but from the unease that gnawed at her. Emily, her co-worker, caught her eye as Sarah brushed past. "You good? You look like you just saw a ghost." "Just, the usual craziness," Sarah replied airily, but the weight of her unspoken thoughts bore down on her. After the shift, she sat at the end of the bar, her customary spot where she could unwind away from judgmental gazes. She cradled a cup of lukewarm coffee, its bitterness echoing the turmoil inside her. The chaos had dissipated, yet her mind was still racing. How could a man like Jake, with the luxury of privilege, also feel entangled in fear? It piqued her curiosity, but more importantly, something inside her crackled to life, a desire to confront the narrative she had been living, the story of quiet suffering she had embraced for so long. Sarah had learned to navigate life in defense mode, shaped by the relentless struggle of making ends meet. Each dollar earned came wrapped with a story of sacrifice. What if she could transform that narrative? She opened her phone, her fingers hesitating over an app she had installed weeks prior. It was a platform for creators, a space where people shared their stories, their pain, their triumphs. The thought of sharing her life, a life dictated by survival, of dreams constantly deferred, seemed absurd. But wasn't absurdity often the first step toward change? That night, sleepless thoughts roamed, thinking about how Jake had seen a glimpse of her truth. She pulled out her journal, the pages filled with her hopes, fears, and dreams, scattered snippets buried under mundane entries. Daringly, she began to draft a video script. What would she even call it? Something raw that spoke to the heart of her reality, yet encapsulated the hope she felt in those fleeting moments of connection amidst the chaos. "Maybe I'm more than just a waitress," she whispered to herself, a whisper gaining strength with every word. A rush of exhilaration coursed through her. This could be her doorway to a different life. Her mind buzzed with the possibilities of speaking out, of vulnerability, of shifting the narrative away from just survival to something vibrant. As morning broke, she knew she stood at a precipice. This was about more than just a video. It was about reclaiming her identity, confronting the doubts that clung to her. Yet a voice crept in, one full of uncertainty. How would her words resonate with others? What if mocking laughter replaced understanding? Despite the uncertainty, she pushed herself forward, ready to dive into the unknown. With a targeted focus, Sarah filmed her first video, pouring her heart into the camera, exposing her truth, flawed yet determined. The process became cathartic. She could feel chains breaking, limitations crumbling. As she uploaded the video, nerves thrummed through her. What awaited her in the comments? Applause or disdain? She inhaled deeply, glancing at the notification icon lighting up her phone. The moment could shift her trajectory, but in the awakening of her newfound purpose, another thought gripped her with tighter resolve. Was Jake watching? As she hit publish, she realized this was just the beginning. What if the unexpected connection ignited by that chaotic night would change more than their individual lives? What if it turned into something neither of them could foresee? But before she could entertain the possibilities any longer, her phone vibrated. One notification. She hesitated, breath catching. What awaited her? An opportunity for confrontation? A blow to her fragile confidence? The pulse of uncertainty quickened in her chest. A moment stretched into an eternity as Sarah held her breath, staring at the illuminated square on her phone. The notification shot through her like a jolt of electricity, triggering a swirl of hope and dread in her mind. Any second now, she would see the impact of her words. When she finally tapped the notification, her heart sank. The message wasn't from Jake but from Emily. "You won't believe this. That video you posted is going viral. Everyone's talking about it. Viral? Her initial excitement was clouded by uncertainty. What did that even mean? Suddenly, the weight of her vulnerability pressed down more heavily upon her. She had laid herself bare, revealing her fears and aspirations to an audience she never intended to confront. Scrolling through the comments, a wave of reactions cascaded over her screen. Some were supportive, applauding her bravery. Others were dismissive, heckling her storyline as an overdramatic grasp for attention. Each word felt like a brick, building a wall around the insecurity she desperately wanted to overcome. Why did I do this? It whispered. Yet, as she waded through the myriad opinions, she couldn't shake the spark of self-recognition flaring within. The negative comments, infused with sarcasm and disdain, pulled at her, urging her to retreat into the shadows. But there were glimmers of encouragement, people sharing their stories in response, telling her she wasn't alone in the struggle. They found connection in her authenticity, a truth that resonated beyond the snarky remarks. Her heart began to race again, not because of fear but excitement. She wondered whether her boldness would ignite another light somewhere. Sarah. Emily's voice broke through her thoughts, dragging her back to the present. Did you see the views? You're onto something amazing. A lot of people need to hear what you have to say. Yeah, I did, Sarah replied cautiously, masking the turmoil brewing beneath her composure. It's overwhelming if you let it. It can be a turning point. This could take you somewhere. Somewhere. The word hung in the air, the very proposition she had longed for but feared embracing. It nudged her deeper into reflection on the dichotomy of her existence, the life of a waitress tethered to a covert narrative of flair and aspiration. She wondered whether she could navigate this newfound attention without losing herself in the process. The following days were punctuated by a whirlwind of activity. Every time Sarah uploaded new content, the rush of sharing her experiences pushed her to articulate thoughts she had long kept buried. Each clip dug deeper into raw honesty, creating richer dialogue around personal growth, shame, and resilience. However, with newfound exposure came scrutiny. Jake's absence was palpable. He hadn't mentioned her video, nor had he reached out since that electric moment at the cafe. Days turned into weeks, and while her confidence bloomed, a seed of worry took root. She found herself constantly checking her phone for messages, a growing urge to reconnect with him battling with her pride. Then came the pivotal moment during a live session. Sarah had delved into the theme of breaking free from one's past, an acknowledgement of personal narratives shaped by other people's perceptions. As she spoke, a comment caught her eye. Your words remind me of someone I know. Jake's not been the same since the blackout. Do you know him? A mix of shock and intrigue flooded her, overshadowing her thoughts. What was her connection to him now? Had her voice somehow transcended their worlds, a signal sent across invisible barriers? Fueling her curiosity, she realized that this was her chance not just to follow her own narrative, but to confront Jake about theirs. With a rush of adrenaline, Sarah resolved to step beyond the screen and find him. This wasn't just about their shared moment but about the intertwining paths they were both navigating, the fear they had both felt that night. But what would she say? All her thoughts about reclaiming her narrative felt trivial compared to what lay ahead. Would she find solidarity, even connection, or merely expose the wounds of a past conflict? As she set off, heart racing with new possibilities, the lingering doubt made her pulse quicken. Was she ready to face the man who had unwittingly sparked her journey, or would their meeting unravel the very threads of courage she had woven? The streets outside felt suffocatingly familiar, a mixture of concrete and pulse that had always seemed to comfort her, yet now they amplified her unease. Sarah navigated the city with purpose, each step a reminder of the dichotomy between who she was and who she was striving to be. The soft clang of her shoes against the sidewalk blended with the distant hum of city life, a tapestry of sounds that drowned out her swirling thoughts. Every block brought back memories, slivers of time that replayed in her mind like a distorted reel of film. She tried to concentrate on the task at hand, finding Jake. His absence loomed large, a shadow that had dulled the vibrant colors of her newfound confidence. The moments shared in the cafe, threadbare yet electrifying, carved out a space in her heart that was difficult to ignore. Regret gnawed her. They had both become lost in the chaos of their realities, profound connections overshadowed by the weight of personal struggles. Her phone buzzed again, a familiar jolt that sent waves of anxiety ricocheting through her. A new comment on her video. "Your strength inspires me. I hope you find what you're searching for." The words were encouraging, but deep down she questioned whether she had any real strength at all. What if she was just a character in her own narrative, fumbling through lines she didn't quite believe? As she approached the bar where Jake often worked, the air shifted, the patrons moving with a brisk half-stagger that momentarily made her freeze. It was a world tethered to the elite, one that highlighted the chasm between their lives. She squared her shoulders, bracing herself against an unexpected wave of self-doubt that threatened to immobilize her. Focus on the goal, she reminded herself. Fighting the impulse to turn around, the importance of the moment outweighed her fears. She was not just confronting Jake, she was challenging herself, daring to step into a reality that involved confronting the expectations she held, and those imposed from the outside world. Inside the bar, the atmosphere was thick with laughter, conversations blending into a cacophony that felt almost jubilant. She took a deep breath, scanning the room for him. She needed to find clarity, and perhaps, closure. Then, finally, there he was, Jake, leaning against the bar, his smile brighter than the lights overhead, totally at ease in his surroundings. Her heart raced anew, oscillating between panic and courage. Was this the connection she came to seek, or merely a painful reminder of the past? Their eyes met, and for a brief heartbeat, time hung suspended. There was recognition, a flicker of something unspoken that surged back to life in both their gazes. "Sarah," he called, weaving through the crowd to bridge the distance between them. His tone held an amalgamation of surprise and curiosity that sent adrenaline rushing through her veins. Would she cower, or break free? "Can we talk?" The words tumbled out, even as her mind echoed a symphony of uncertainties. Jake studied her, a flash of introspection crossing his features. "Sure. I was just thinking about you, your video." His tone shifted, vulnerability flickering just beneath the surface. It struck a chord. "But you've changed. What are you really looking for?" The question weighed heavily in the air, expanding into the space between them. What could she say? That she was searching for validation? For a sense of belonging? Or perhaps, she was seeking to prove something even deeper, the existence of resilience within vulnerability. "I wish I could articulate it better," she finally confessed, her voice steady yet filled with a tremor that revealed her internal conflict. "I think I'm trying to find myself." With his gaze unwavering, he replied, "Then let us start here." In that moment, as her walls began to crumble, she realized this wasn't just about finding Jake, it was about unearthing the courage to define herself beyond her past. The possibility of connection, of understanding, felt both exhilarating and terrifying. But as they began to walk deeper into their conversation, a nagging voice reminded her that the complexities of their past would soon collide with the clarity they both sought. Would they emerge renewed, or would the reality of their circumstances shatter their fragile reconciliation? Everything hung in the balance as the truth lay ahead, and she braced herself for the repercussions of their shared narratives. What awaited them next could either bind their paths more closely or force them further apart. Jake's smile faded a touch, uncertainty creeping in as he assessed Sarah's demeanor. It was a look she recognized, one mirrored in her reflection on countless occasions when she questioned if she could rise above her surroundings. "Let us just go outside," he suggested, nodding toward the bar's door, as if sensing the need for privacy to peel back layers once hidden. The crisp night air greeted them, a sharp contrast to the vibrant chaos of the bar. Sarah's heart thudded loudly in her chest, her mind racing through a torrent of thoughts. She was seeking not just to connect with Jake but also to unveil the basis of her identity, which she feared was still entangled with unfulfilled expectations and regret. "Tell me what you're really feeling," Jake prompted softly, his eyes reflecting the sincerity she had longed for. A heavy pause settled between them, punctuated only by the distant sounds of laughter and clinking glasses. Should she risk opening herself up entirely? Each hesitation felt like a tug-of-war between vulnerability and the well-fortified walls she had built. I feel lost. The admission slipped from her lips before she could filter it. It's like I'm performing a role based on what others expect of me. I don't even know who Sarah is anymore. Jake shifted slightly, his posture shifting from relaxed to attentive. You're more than just the waitress at the club, Sarah, or the face in the videos. You carry more weight than just your job. You've got something inside you that resonates with others. That's why they see strength in you. His words hung in the air, resonating with a truth she had been too hesitant to accept. Was her strength truly a beacon for others? Could she validate herself through how others perceived her? As if interpreting her silence, he added, the real question is, what do you want to become? You can carve your path. The what burned fiercely in her mind, igniting a new flame of determination. Could she really begin to explore her full potential? The internal struggle between comfort in complacency and the fear of diving into the unknown was suffocating yet thrilling. He had challenged her to think larger than her current constraints. I want to be someone who inspires, she replied, her voice gathering strength. I want to channel this whatever it is into something meaningful. But how do I even start? Jake stepped closer, his eyes steady, bolstering her resolve in the chilly night. Start small. Every moment is a ripple. Maybe you begin by reframing how you view yourself. And you can use your passion, your story, as a catalyst for change either in your life or the lives of others. His suggestion resonated deeply, intertwining with fragments of her dreams that had felt dormant for far too long. Thoughts swirled, and for the first time, she considered how her narrative might be rewritten. What if I don't know where to land? She asked, her breath hitched and almost wistful. Then aim to redefine your journey, not just your destination, he replied. And don't shy away from uncertainty. Embrace it. A sense of clarity descended upon her, but questions brimming with potential still loomed large. Did she possess the courage to dismantle the constructed image of herself? To excavate the desires buried beneath layers of self-doubt? Would she falter, or would this be her chance to forge ahead into uncharted territory? Jake, she began, I think. I can't keep waiting for life to happen. I need to embrace my story. The affirmation felt liberating, igniting a quiet storm of hope within her. Yet, as she ventured forth, the familiar sensation of fear bubbled beneath the surface of fear that her ambitions could crumble or never take flight at all. Her heart craved transformation, but the reality of execution loomed ominously in the background. As the weight of possibilities thickened, a singular notion flickered in the recess of her mind. Could she harness her past experiences and reshape them into a driving force? The decision rested heavily by her side. Her next move could redefine everything. Let's take that leap, Sarah. You don't have to do it alone, Jake encouraged, interlacing his fingers with hers. But before she could respond, a sharp voice cut through the night. A figure from her past approached, interrupting their moment, and with it, the potential for reconciliation hung in precarious balance. Would this confrontation undo her budding courage, or might it propel her deeper into her quest for self-definition? The figure emerged from the shadows, a whirlwind of familiar energy that felt both exhilarating and suffocating. Sarah's stomach twisted as she absorbed the once familiar features of Lexi, the girl from her past who had thrived in the very world Sarah longed to break free from. Lexi's laughter echoed sharply against the quiet night, an unsettling reminder of old insecurities. Sarah! Is that really you? Lexi exclaimed, her tone layered with mock surprise, scanning Sarah's current attire that contrasted so starkly with her own designer outfit. What happened to the girl who used to dominate the social scene? The barb pierced through Sarah's freshly nurtured determination, her heart racing in anticipation of how this encounter could either shatter or galvanize her newfound resolve. As she gripped Jake's hand tighter, she searched for words, but Lexi's presence flooded her mind with insecurities she thought she'd begun to overcome. I'm doing just fine, Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Just trying to figure things out for myself. Oh, come on. You know the real question. Lexi leaned closer, her gaze filled with an insatiable curiosity. Are you really content with this life? Is being a waitress your idea of a fulfilling existence? Defensively, Sarah's thoughts assembled into a staunch facade. You don't know what it's like to be underestimated until you decide to rise above it. A flicker of something, perhaps admiration, sparked in Jake's eyes at her response, emboldening Sarah further. Lexi, however, was unfazed, folding her arms with an air of superiority. And what do you plan to do with those lofty aspirations? Dream your way into anything worthwhile? Each word from Lexi ignited old wounds, the jeers that had once silenced her inner voice. Yet in this moment, instead of crumbling beneath judgment, Sarah felt a desperate urge to reclaim her narrative. She had always allowed Lexi's perception to drown out her ambitions. Now, she craved liberation from that script. I'm aiming to inspire others, not for validation but for transformation, Sarah proclaimed, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. You may see a waitress, but I see potential. Lexi's smirk faltered slightly, the flicker of disbelief replaced by a measure of respect, if just for a heartbeat. But then, she straightened, her defenses up. Well, good luck with that. But just know, it's easy to romanticize struggle when you haven't tasted real success. Reality is far less glamorous, sweetheart. The words stung, yet they also crystallized a pivotal moment for Sarah. Could she really turn her past and the doubts others threw at her into stepping stones toward her future? In one succinct encounter, Lexi had unveiled a central conflict Sarah needed to face, not just with the world outside but also within her own psyche. Let me be clear, Lexi, Sarah replied, her voice gaining strength. The world has shown me what it takes to rise. I'm tired of pretending, and I will no longer hide behind labels you impose on me. The intensity of her statement hung in the air, their respective barriers standing taller than before. Jake's grip on her hand signaled his support, yet Sarah felt an important shift occurring within her. For the first time, she no longer craved approval but was confronting her own sense of self-worth. Vulnerable, yet unwavering, Lexi opened her mouth to retort, but hesitated, sense of surprise dawning on her face before she finally took a step back, as if Sarah's newfound resolve had startled her. Fine, enjoy your little epiphany. And with that, she turned and stalked away, her heels clicking defiantly against the pavement. Breathless, Sarah turned to Jake, air filled thick with unresolved potential and newly cemented resolve. Did I really just stand up to her? She asked, astonished with her own courage. Yeah, you did, Jake smiled, admiration flashing in his eyes. That was a powerful moment, Sarah. A wave of realization washed over her. She had not only survived the confrontation but had confronted a pivotal facet of herself. With Lexi's departure, doubts that had trailed her for years began to feel less oppressive, and the dim light of possibility illuminated a path forward. Yet, the shadows of doubt still lingered. How would she navigate the reality of her transformation? Jake, this is just the beginning, she said, a mix of excitement and trepidation swirling within. Looking out into the dark expanse beyond, she questioned whether she could sustain this newfound strength and convert her aspirations into tangible accomplishments. What challenges lay ahead? As they stood in the stark chill enveloping them, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that another storm awaited, one that would test her resolve more than this altercation had. With her heart pounding and excitement steadily rising, she took a deep breath, ready for the next challenge but more powerfully, ready to embrace who she was meant to be. The warm glow of the diner felt both comforting and claustrophobic as Sarah stepped back into the familiar surroundings of her workplace. The rhythmic clamor of dishes and the low hum of conversation contrasted sharply with the intensity of her recent confrontation. She could feel the weight of her newfound confidence battling alongside her old fears, competing for dominance as she pulled off her coat and hung it on the back of her chair. "Hey, Sarah," called out Tina, her fellow waitress, with an infectious enthusiasm. "Back to the grind, huh? How's the world treating you?" "Better," Sarah replied, surprising herself with the ease of the word, even as the implications lingered. Action sparked thoughts. the integration of theory and practice demanded discipline she had yet to cultivate. Could she hold on to this shift in mindset as she plunged back into the daily rhythms of her life? As she prepared for the evening shift, Sarah reflected on her encounter with Lexi. The self-assuredness Lexi exuded had always made Sarah feel small. Why did the recognition of her aspirations shift so easily in their exchange? No longer was she going to let others define her by her current circumstance. When her first table of the night sat down, a cluster of expectant faces turned toward her. She put on her professional smile, masking the turmoil beneath. "Welcome. What can I get started for you?" Yet, in the back of her mind, the thought lingered, what if she didn't just serve food, what if she inspired? Crafting her responses with intentionality during each interaction transformed her moments of service into opportunities for connection. A small ripple, perhaps, but it felt substantial. As she took orders, she infused encouragement into her exchanges. "You're going to love this dish, it's my personal favorite," she said enthusiastically, her words spilling out like an affirmation of her intent. With each interaction, she found herself sharing little anecdotes about a new dish, an upcoming local event, or even the way the diner had been her grounding force during tumultuous changes in her life. The evening flowed with a mixture of challenges and triumphs. She swiftly maneuvered across the crowded room, balancing drinks and plates while engaging with customers. In each moment, Sarah carved out an identity that transcended her current occupation. A seemingly insignificant conversation with a woman at table 6 turned pivotal. "You have such a vibrant energy. Ever thought of doing something more than this?" the woman inquired, genuine curiosity illuminating her gaze. "I'm working on it," Sarah replied, a determined edge tinging her tone. "I'm focusing on what inspires me, shifting from being looked down upon to becoming someone who uplifts others." The woman nodded slowly, seemingly impressed. "That's rare. Don't let anyone deter you. It takes more courage to pursue passions than to hide behind perceived safety." As Sarah walked away, her thoughts swirled. Courage, it wasn't just standing up to Lexi, it was now embedded in the very fabric of her daily life, manifesting in each interaction. She was no longer just a waitress, she was carving a niche of motivation and connection within her role. The night wound down with a palpable satisfaction swelling within her. Each compliment and positive exchange reinforced her resolve. The sparkling possibilities of her dreams felt closer, yet she remained cautious. The echoes of her past insecurities were still faint flickers beneath her confidence. As she finished her last tables for the evening, she heard the diner door chime and looked up to see an imposing figure enter, an air of privilege radiating from him that sent a ripple through the room. What was he doing here? Drawing a slow, deep breath, the wind of uncertainty kicked in. Would this evening reveal another layer of her transformation, or would it summon old fears she thought she had left behind? The moment hung in the air, thick with tension and anticipation. What would fate have in store for her tonight? Would she be able to harness her resolve when faced with these new challenges, or would the weight of her past pull her back down? Sarah straightened her posture, subconsciously steeling herself as she approached the figure lingering just inside the diner. The glint from his expensive watch caught the diner's warm light, a stark contrast to the grease-stained tiles that had been her battleground for years. "Good evening, sir. What brings you here tonight?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. She tried to mask the knot tightening in her stomach, a reminder of all the elitism and judgment she had experienced in the past. That he looked up, revealing a sharp jawline and a curious smile. "I'm just in town for business. Thought I'd grab a bite in a local spot." His demeanor was relaxed, but the air around him seemed charged with a kind of authority that made Sarah's hands tremble slightly as she took the notepad from her apron. "Any suggestions?" His gaze drifted over the menu, but she couldn't shake the feeling he was assessing her more than the options on paper. "You can't go wrong with the meatloaf or the pie," she replied, pulling herself together, determined not to let her nerves show. Maybe this was an opportunity. If she could engage him in a way that displayed her newfound resilience, perhaps it would serve to solidify her transformation. "You have a passion for this place, don't you?" He leaned back, watching her with interest. The emphasis on the word passion felt like more than casual chatter, it tapped into the heart of her recent revelations. I do, she said carefully. More than just serving food, I like to create moments for people, to inspire them while they eat. The words flowed more naturally now, steady and intentional, his eyebrows raised in surprise, perhaps even admiration. Inspiration from a diner? That's a bold statement. Most people wouldn't see it that way. She met his gaze, challenging the presumption. Maybe that's why they miss out on the magic. There it was, the flicker of defiance she had nurtured since her encounter with Lexi. A dormant part of her sparked to life, wishing to shine through the mundanity that often enveloped her. The conversation took a turn, revealing he was the vice president of a marketing firm, boasting an impressive clientele. As he spoke of his work, she felt a strange gravitational pull toward his confidence, igniting a sense of curiosity within her about her own aspirations. The diner and its challenges had been her safe haven for a long time, but would she dare step outside that familiarity? Who inspires you in your career? He asked suddenly, shifting the focus back toward her. Caught off guard, she paused. Honestly? I'm still figuring it out. I want to be someone who helps others recognize their potential. Right now, I'm just trying to recognize mine. He watched her intently, a moment of silence passing between them, heavy with introspection. Her heart raced as she sensed the opportunity. She could draw on her past experiences to craft her vision for the future. An idea sparked. What if she explored possibilities beyond this diner? The thought of creating a local event that invited people to share their stories or talents sat at the back of her mind, wanting to be realized. Have you considered promoting local talent as a part of your work here? There's a lot of untapped potential in communities, the man suggested, his eyes lighting up. Why not curate an evening centered around that music, storytelling, even a mini-market? The suggestion struck a chord deep within Sarah, a melody resonating with her newfound determination. It was more than an idea, it was a calling to elevate her role beyond serving food. Could she unify the community and lift others alongside her? Maybe that's the inspiration I need, she said, her voice thick with emerging resolve. Maybe it's time to challenge the status quo of this diner and create something bigger. The night wore on, and by the time he signed the check, Sarah felt a transformation simmering in her veins. It wasn't just about the food anymore. It was about creating an atmosphere ripe for change. As the diner began to empty, she reflected on the evening's exchange. Was this merely a chance meeting, or had she stumbled upon a turning point? The lingering sensation of potential gripped her with an intoxicating thrill, but before she could process fully, her thoughts were interrupted by the door swinging open again, revealing familiar faces from her past who had come to find her. The weight of unresolved history hung thick in the air as they locked eyes with her, uncertainty written across their faces. Would Sarah lean into the burgeoning sense of purpose she clenched within, or would the ghosts of her past disrupt this newfound momentum? The unfolding scene felt alive with tension, brimming with questions that demanded answers. Just how far could she go when pushed against the walls of her history? As Sarah stood behind the counter, the air thick with the scent of coffee and lingering tension, her mind raced with conflicting thoughts. The familiar faces from her past, a trio of colleagues from her high school, bore unwelcomed memories, experiences wrapped in ridicule. What did they want? She could see the judgment in their eyes, but she refused to allow their presence to overshadow her spark of determination. Hey, Sarah! We thought we'd find you here, one of them, Jenna, exclaimed, her voice dripping with faux cheer. The others smirked, leaning against the counter as if they owned the space. Sarah forced a smile, determined not to flinch. It's good to see you. Each word landed heavy, laced with underlying reservations. What happened to you? Did you always want to be a waitress? Jenna quipped, laughter bubbling like a soda can ready to burst. The comment struck a nerve, and Sarah felt the heat rise to her cheeks, a mixture of embarrassment and anger surging through her. Yet, beneath this turmoil lay the flame of defiance that had ignited within her just hours earlier. She took a deep breath, drawing on the energy from her conversation with the stranger. Actually, I'm working on some ideas to bring our community together through the diner. Community. Here. One of her former classmates jeered, a snicker escaping her lips. A diner is where dreams go to die, you know. With each mockery, Sarah felt the shadows of her past loom larger. Memories of late nights filled with self-doubt washed over her. She had been that girl who yearned for validation, ever striving to fit in and be accepted. But now, visions of filled seats and vibrant events flickered before her like stars breaking through the night sky. Actually, it's a place where people share stories and make connections, Sarah countered, her voice trembling initially, but growing firmer as she spoke. You see, I'm creating something special here, a space where everyone can come together and find their voice. Not just eat food. Their chuckles faltered, but something inside Sarah stirred further. She was reaching beyond mere deflection, she was stepping into her newfound identity. What if she truly could turn the diner into a hub of creativity? The thoughts darted through her mind like fireflies, illuminating the path ahead. Jenna raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched across her face. Good luck with that, Sarah. Sounds like a wild dream for a small-town diner. But it wasn't simply a dream, it was a commitment she was willing to embrace. I think our local talents deserve a spotlight, she declared, her words wrapping around her growing conviction. The challenge would not come from her past, but rather from this very present moment, asserting her direction loudly. As the laughter faded, she could sense a shift. It wasn't only them looking at her, but herself, staring back and expecting more. Did she dare to rise above their judgments? With a final glance at her classmates, she gathered her southern resolve. You may see it as a joke, but I see endless possibilities. And I will elevate this place. The firmness of her own voice surprised her. It wasn't just about proving them wrong but about understanding her worth. The trio exchanged looks, a fleeting mixture of shock and confusion passing among them, and she welcomed it, savoring the taste of empowerment born from confrontation. They turned to leave, retreating into the night, but not before Sarah felt a sense of liberation sweep over her. With the weight of the past beginning to dissipate, she sought to carve out her future. What if she truly went beyond mere ideas? The thought of executing plans surged through her like caffeine, igniting her system, pushing her toward action. As the diner emptied, Sarah drafted her first plan. She would reach out to local talent, make connections, and begin the groundwork to transform her diner into more than just a breadwinner. Her mind buzzed with possibilities, and at that moment, she realized she couldn't wait for permission. She had to take charge, and just as she organized the notepad, a notification pinged on her phone, a message from the marketing vice president asking to meet again. Could this be her golden chance to refine her vision? Sarah's heart raced as hope stirred deep within her. Would she seize this opportunity to disrupt her narrative, or would fear hold her back once more? The impending decision loomed, thick and palpable, as she stood on the precipice of change, ready to leap. The excitement that flooded Sarah as she entered the diner felt like a breath of fresh air, mingling with the aromatic scent of brewed coffee and the familiar chatter of diners. Change had become her companion, and she embraced every moment of it. Gone were the days of shrinking under the weight of judgment. Today, she felt lighter, more empowered. As she prepared for her shift, her thoughts echoed with newfound clarity, a steady reminder of the commitment she had made to herself and the dreams she dared to entertain. The recent encounter with her past made her realize her worth. She aimed not just to survive but to thrive, and her role as a waitress only served as a stepping stone to greater aspirations. Sarah, can you take care of table 3? Interrupted Tina, bringing her back to the present. Of course. They love our local special, Sarah replied, the enthusiasm genuine and bright. With each table she approached, she felt a surge of opportunity. Each interaction transformed into a chance to connect. Her heart beat steadily, matching the rhythm of her service. A woman at table 3 noticed the shift in Sarah's energy. You seem different today. There's something about you. For the first time, Sarah felt proud rather than defensive. I'm finding my voice, I think. I aim to inspire through my work here. The woman smiled, intrigued. That's beautiful. You know, I help organize local events. You should consider hosting a showcase for the talent in this area. There are so many undiscovered gems. Her heart raced. What if this was how her vision could take shape? What if she really could create a platform for others to share their stories and talents? I think that's a great idea. Sarah exclaimed, her mind racing with possibilities. I'll start reaching out to local musicians, artists, even speakers who want to connect. That evening alone was a catalyst, her determination blooming with each customer who walked through the door. During slow moments, she scribbled ideas on napkins, mapping out initial plans and circles of support, committing to the challenges ahead. It lit a fire beneath her resolve. The diner wasn't just her workplace, it would soon be a haven for creativity and community. Several weeks later, with tireless efforts, Sarah's vision began taking shape. The diner hosted its first local talent night, a vibrant showcase where musicians, poets, and artists gathered to share their gifts. The walls echoed with applause, the atmosphere buzzing with energy she had sparked. Watching the evening unfold, her heart swelled with pride. It was more than just entertainment, it was a fusion of stories, aspirations, and community bonding. Suddenly, she was an architect of connection, shaping her world beyond the confines of her prior identity. Jake attended the event, standing amidst the cheerful crowd. Their eyes met, and Sarah felt a mixture of nerves and exhilaration. This encounter was no longer just a reunion, it symbolized the growth they both endured. The moment he stepped toward her, she felt his admiration, a mutual respect igniting in the air. "Sarah, this is incredible!" he exclaimed, genuinely captivated by the turnout. "You've really transformed this place." "I couldn't have done it without support from everyone," she acknowledged, her voice unwavering. "But it began with believing I could." His smile widened, mirroring her newfound confidence. "What's next for you?" An exhilarating wave crashed over her. "I'm not stopping here. This is only the beginning." As they spoke, her sense of accomplishment solidified. She was ready for more. Invitations to speak at community gatherings poured in, each one solidifying her place not just within the diner, but as an advocate for change. Her videos on social media, which began as a quest for connection, now illuminated paths for countless others. Recognition followed, local newspapers featured her story, her social media follower count soared. She had handed out courage like candy, inspiring others to embrace their truth. People thanked her constantly, lighting up her interactions, shifting her mindset from a narrow view to a broad horizon. In that moment, standing before a collection of passionate performers, celebrating art that thrived on community, Sarah felt fulfillment envelop her, a reward born from relentless pursuit and heartfelt connection. "Would you look at this?" she mused, glancing toward Jake as the applause echoed in the air, each clap echoing the heartbeat of her journey. "All it took was realizing I could be more than what I once was." "Yes," he replied, beaming. "And you've proven to everyone else they can, too." With that, Sarah's final transformation washed over her, fully solid confidence, ancestral strength, and an unmistakable clarity of purpose. She had conquered her fears, and in doing so, reclaimed both her narrative and her identity. In this journey of self-discovery and inspiration, she had stepped boldly into her future. Today, with every smile she offered and every word she shared, she manifested the promise of what lay ahead. This was her turning point, and she had decided, she would face life head-on, not just as a waitress, but as a force of transformative change, one inspired story at a time. Now it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and theories about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.